You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
The utopian future of Star Trek is a universe we should all aspire to. A world where humans put aside their cultural and social differences for a common goal of exploration. A time where technology makes human lives infinitely better and the need for financial dominance no longer exists. Peace, tranquility, and the pursuit of happiness reign supreme. That is, until the hazard team of the USS Voyager beam in to fuck shit up. This is an episode where I play an older game that I either never finished or didn't play at all, but only if it can still be legally played at an affordable price. This is my pile of shame. Star Trek Voyager Elite Force was released in September 2000 on the PC and ported to the PS2 in December of the following year. Developed by Raven Software and published by Activision, it brings the frag fest of Quake to the Delta Quadrant. It is a first-person shooter that is a product of its time and is fondly remembered as one of the better games set in the Trek universe, even though the general story feels removed from the ideals of the franchise. The nostalgic twitch it stirs in the undies of Trekkies is unfortunately offset by the outdated graphics, gameplay, and phoned-in voice acting. While it sometimes made me smile, I left the experience wishing I had played it back in the day. If you are familiar with my channel, you will know I am a huge Star Trek fan. My flagship podcast and YouTube channel is a Star Trek game show called The Treksperts Quiz. Please like and subscribe. My borderline disturbing love of Gene Roddenberry's future history makes it surprising that I never played Elite Force. But it makes sense that you know I was fresh out of high school and was never on the elitist PC gaming bandwagon. I only owned a GameCube at the time, and even that I had to sell to pay rent to avoid doing whatever the equivalent of an OnlyFans was at the time to be able to make money. So, Elite Force, its sequel, and a small library of fondly remembered Star Trek games from the early 2000s unfortunately passed me by. Mixed reviews accompanied the game's original release, with some criticising performance in the PS2 port. I played it on a modern gaming laptop via GOG, and was reminded of the fact that I had just turned 40 because I kept getting headaches during my review sessions, probably because I'm just not used to first-person shooters on the PC. Star Trek Voyager Elite Force opens by introducing Hazard Team.
In our numerous encounters, we came into contact with many dangerous and violent species. Having a limited crew with no chance of reinforcements, we determined that we needed a specialized team to handle the more dangerous situations. Tuvok, Voyager's chief of security, assembled an elite force of security personnel named the Hazard Team.
It is made up of a group of characters that I estimate existed at some point around the TV show's 6th or 7th seasons. Security Chief Tuvok made the logical decision to assemble the crackpot team to defend the Voyager crew from the ever-escalating dangers of the Delta Quadrant. At first, I thought this felt like a storyline from a twisted piece of fanfiction. However, The more I played, the more the storyline made sense in the context of Voyager's camp and zany vibe. After all, we are talking about a show where two main characters evolved into salamanders and had salamander babies. Which they also abandoned. You play as either Alexander Monroe or Alexandria Monroe, an early example of being able to select gender in games. It is a shame that they didn't change the dialogue or storylines though when you played as the female Alexandria.
Good luck, gents. Meet you back at the homestead.
The first thing that is immediately apparent is how ancient the visuals are, which is understandable for a game that is 24 years old and built on the Quake engine. At the time, that engine was some cutting-edge shit. It just hasn't aged well. It mostly looks like a bad claymation out of Robot Chicken when viewed at modern resolution.
Tom.
Hey, Monroe. Nice work on the Borg ship. We all owe you one.
Devastating.
Great. Thanks for the pep talk.
B'Elanna, how soon will we get the warp drive and defense systems back online?
Not soon enough, Captain. The isodecium is helping, but it's still going to take several more hours.
I'm open to ideas. Anyone?
I thought I saw something in the Etherians'
We meet Monroe and her elite team taking part in a Borg training mission on the holodeck. She fucks it up in a way that makes you question why on earth Tuvok would select this group of junior officers for a survey of pot plants, let alone a dangerous mission on board of an alien starship.
No way, the dog!
I told you.
Well, what was I supposed to do?
Ms. Monroe, your tactical approach was, shall we say, tactless.
It does, however, set up the predictable arc that Monroe will become the hero of the Delta Quadrant.
Deck 4.
With all due respect, sir, I don't think procedure would have mattered. There wasn't any way I could have possibly rescued them.
Someday, Ms. Monroe, you may be called upon to do the impossible. Consider this to be your personal Kobayashi Maru.
Red alert! All hands to battle stations.
This moment is suddenly interrupted by an alien attack. I was treated to some quality full motion video cutscenes that captured the show quite well. Followed by a weird Wish.com version of the Voyager opening theme song.
Captain's log, stardate 53854.7. Voyager was attacked by an unknown force and transported to some kind of starship graveyard, whereabouts unknown. The ship is heavily damaged. Communications, propulsion, and other systems are offline. Until repairs are done, we're utterly helpless. Stranded. Captain Monroe, you're wearing a hazard suit. Get down to engineering and help B'Elanna seal that leak.
You set about doing odd jobs to get the ship up and running. I got a slight thrill from exploring the corridors of Voyager in this section. I would have spent hours doing this 20 years ago. You know, before getting old made it impossible for me to be impressed by anything. At all. Before long, you find yourself defending the ship from a boarding party made up of a who's who of Star Trek Voyager aliens.
They appear to be scavengers of some sort, comprised of Klingons, humans, and Malons.
After fighting them off, Tuvok decides that only the ill-prepared hazard team can solve the mystery of the starship graveyard. This sets off a sequence of events that have you travelling from ship to ship, encountering new life and new civilizations, and shooting them all in the face. even the ones who were harmless.
Just a minute. You're the ones who trapped us on your ship and attacked us.
You invade us, believed you were the others, tried to contact you. Communication methods very different. You attack us.
They were trying to communicate?
A group of aliens called the Collectors have been harvesting different species, technology, and vessels to create some super weapon of some kind. They're intent on becoming the dominant power in the galaxy, blah blah blah, something like that. It's not a terrible plot, it's just not overly original or memorable by sci-fi or Star Trek standards. All up, you will embark on 8 lengthy missions in a fairly diverse set of locales, like the creepy halls of various alien vessels, the depths of a Borg cube, a Klingon warship, and even a Starfleet vessel from the 23rd century Terran universe. Star Trek fans will know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, they are all confined to run-and-gun hallway-style experiences that throw hordes of the same enemy types at you. Also, the action tends to switch from shooting to awkward platforming, and by awkward, I just mean it's terrible. I frequently came across sections where I had no idea what I was supposed to do next. Only to find a tiny hidden hole after spending about 10 minutes dry humping the walls, looking for anything that might help progress the game. Most of the game is not overly challenging until you reach the final levels and the bad guys actually start shooting back. There are also plenty of gameplay elements that are very reminiscent of shooters from this era. Especially the way each ship you visit is filled with terminals that can instantly heal you or recharge any of the weapons you've collected. I guess this was before Halo made sure every playable character had a rechargeable shield. Each level presents a self-contained Trek-like adventure that contributes to the larger story. If you are a fan of the franchise, you may find some of them charming. Even if each one feels like it was written by a 16-year-old boy in 1999 whose only experience with love was via a 7 of 9 poster on his wall. Fun fact, I used to obsess over her as a teen, so people would think I was straight.
Captain Janeway has encouraged me to allocate a certain percentage of my time to leisure. It is inefficient, but I see the wisdom of the practice for humans.
Given that Raven Software were trying to create an action shooter based in a universe where diplomacy is supposed to be the weapon of choice, they actually did an okay job making the story and characters feel like Star Trek. There are character moments, though, that I think would make Gene Roddenberry turn in his grave, such as the constant teasing of the Bolian character Chell.
No life signs?
Like a ghost ship.
Yeah.
Boom! Hey, Chell, behind you!
I was somewhat impressed by the voice acting provided by the show's actual cast. Their efforts sounded phoned in only about 3/4 of the time. I guess that's to be expected, given that this game came out towards the end of the show's run and when interest in the franchise was on a bit of a decline. Like with any first-person shooter, the guns you get to obliterate sentient life with are the major draw card. You get the standard Starfleet peacekeeping phases, but you will not want to use those boring, underpowered dustbusters once you get a hold of the death machines you can find along the way. The gunplay itself is fun enough, but it is just as repetitive as the storylines that Voyager ripped off from the Next Generation for its entire run. Yeah, I went there. Allegedly, there was some kind of online multiplayer, which is not present in the current GOG download. However, you do get access to the original DLC that allows you to freely wander the halls of Voyager. I would love for a modern Unreal Engine 5 version of this, preferably on some kind of VR headset. The real world is terrible, and I need to be able to pretend like I live in Star Trek's 24th century right now, please.
What's wrong with you?
Finally, there are lots of character bios, alien dossiers, and random shit that you can now find by Googling. It was a decent attempt at the time to make this an absorbing Star Trek Voyager experience. Historically, this has been one of the better uses of the Star Trek license for a AAA video game. The franchise does not translate well to a mass appeal game experience, so this gets an A for effort. And it was clearly well received at the time, given that it spawned a sequel a few years later. I will always regret not having played this game when I could properly appreciate it. That being said, I'm grateful for services like GOG who are keeping it playable for modern audiences. Whereas other older games get by on their retro charm, Elite Force comes from a weird era of 3D gaming that has not aged well in terms of visuals or gameplay. This one is for the ride or die Trekkers or Trekkies, like myself.
Thank you, sir. I was afraid you would think my decision was too impulsive.
Sometimes, Lieutenant, your gut instinct is better than what logic and procedure would suggest. Both are needed in a good leader. That is why I chose you to begin with.
Yes, sir. I understand.
Why, Tuvok, is that a bit of pride I detect?
Surely, Captain. There is no cause to insult me.
You can pick up Star Trek Voyager Elite Force for $14.95 Australian on GOG, although it often goes on special. It's very much a product of its time. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure as well that you follow the Bargain Bin Gamer over on Instagram and X. You can also find me streaming games live over on Twitch from time to time as well by searching for the Bargain Bin Gamer, G-A-Y-M-E-R. Remember, the Bargain Bin Gamer is the YouTube show, Twitch channel, and podcast where I play the cheapest and shittest games out there so that you don't have to. It is part of a much larger network of podcasts called the BQN. You can support this and other BQN programs by signing up to be a patron over at patreon.com/BQN. If there are any Bargain Bin games out there you think I should be playing, please leave a comment below. Until next time, au revoir.
Double T Media.